Leviticus from chapter 9. The priests begin their ministry. On the 8th day, Moses summoned Aaron and his sons and the elders of the Israel. He said to Aaron, "Take a bull calf or your sins offering and ram for your burnt offering, both without defect, and present them before the Lord. Then say to them, Israelites, take a male goat for a sin offering, a calf and a lamb, both a year old and without defect." They took the things Moses commanded to the front of the tent of meeting, and the entire assembly came near and took some before the Lord. Then Moses said, "This is what the Lord has commanded you to do, so that the glory of the Lord may appear to you." Moses said to Aaron, "Come to the altar and sacrifice your sin offering and your burnt offering, and make atonement for yourself and the people. Sacrifice the offering that is for the people, and make atonement for them, as the Lord has commanded." So Aaron came to the altar and slaughtered the calf as a sin offering for himself. His sons brought the blood to him, and he dipped his finger into the blood and put it on the horns of the altar. The rest of the blood he poured out of the base of the altar. On the altar he burnt the fat, the kidney, and the covering of the liver from the sin offering, as the Lord commanded Moses. The flesh and the heads he burnt up outside the camp. Then he slaughtered the burnt offering. His son handed him the blood, and he sprinkled it against the altar on all sides. They handed him the burnt offering pieces by pieces, including the head, and he burnt them on the altar. He washed the inner part and the legs and burnt them on top of the burnt offering on the altar. Aaron then brought the offering that was for the people. He took the goat for the sin offering and slaughtered it and offered it for a sin offering, as he did with the first one. He brought the burnt offering and offered it in the prescribed way. He also brought the grain offering, took a handful of it, and burnt it on the altar in addition to the morning burnt offering. He slaughtered the ox and the ram as the fellowship offering for the people. His son handed him the blood, and he sprinkled it against the altar on all sides. But the fat portions of the ox and the lamb, the fat tail, the layer of fat, the kidneys, and the covering of the liver, this they laid on the breast, and then Aaron burnt the fat on the altar. Aaron waved the breast and the right thigh before the Lord as a wave offering, as Moses commanded. Then the Lord lifted his hand toward the people and blessed them. And having sacrificed the sin offering, the burnt offering, and the fellowship offering, he stepped down. Moses and Aaron then went into the tent of meeting. When they came out, they blessed the people, and the glory of God appeared to all the people. Fire came out from the presence of the Lord and consumed the burnt offering and the fat portion on the altar. And when all the people saw it, they shouted for joy and fell face down. Chapter 10, the death of Nadab and Abihu. Aaron's son Nadab and Abihu took their censers, put fire in them, and added incense, and they offered an authorized fire before the Lord, contrary to his command. So fire came out of the presence of the Lord and consumed them, and they died before the Lord. Moses then said to Moses, "This is what the Lord spoke of when he said, 'Amongst those who approach me, I will show myself holy. In the sight of all the people, I will be honored.'" Again, Aaron remained silent. Moses summoned Mishael and Elzaphan, son of Aaron's uncle Uzziel, and said to them, "Come here, carry your cousins outside the camp, away from the front of the sanctuary." So they came and carried them still in their tunics outside the camp, as Moses ordered. Then Moses said to Aaron and his son Eleazar and Ithamar, "Do not let your hair become unkempt, and do not tear your clothes, or you will die, and the Lord will be angry with the whole community. But your relatives, all the house of Israel, may mourn for those the Lord has destroyed by fire. Do not leave the entrance of the tent of meeting, or you will die, because the Lord's anointing oil is on you." So they did as Moses said. Then the Lord said to Moses, you and your sons are not to drink wine or other fermented drink whenever you go into the tent of meeting, or you will die. This is a lasting ordinance for the generation to come. You must distinguish between the holy and the common, between the unclean and the clean, and you must teach the Israelites all the decrees the Lord has given them through Moses. Moses said to Aaron and his remaining son Eleazar and Ithamar, take the grain offering left over from the offering made to the Lord by the fire and eat it prepared with yeast beside the altar. For it is most holy. Eat it in a holy place, because it is your share of your son's share of the offering made to the Lord by fire. For so I have been commanded. But you and your sons Aaron, your daughters, may eat the breast that was waved and the thigh that was presented. Eat them in a ceremoniously clean place. They have been given to you and your children as your share of the Israelite fellowship offerings. The thighs that was presented and the breast that was waved must be brought with the portion of the offering made by fire, to be waved before the Lord as a wave offering. This will be the regular share for you and your children as the Lord commanded. When Moses inquired about the goat of the sin offering and found that it had been burnt up, he was angry with Eleazar and Ithamar, Aaron's remaining sons, and said, why didn't you eat the sin offering in the sanctuary area? It is most holy. It was given to you to take away the guilt of the community by making atonement for them before the Holy Lord. Since its blood was not taken into the holy place, you should have eaten the goat in the sanctuary area as I commanded. Aaron replied to Moses, today they sacrifice their sin offering and their burnt offering before the Lord, but that things as this have happened to me. Would the Lord have been pleased if I had eaten the sin offering today? When Moses heard this, he was satisfied. Chapter 11, Clean and Unclean Food. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, say to the Israelites, of all the animals that live on land, these are the ones you may eat. You may eat any animals that has a split hoof completely divided and that chews the cud. There are some that only chew the cuds and only have a split hoof, but you must eat them. The camel, though it chew the cud, do not have a split hoof. It is ceremonially unclean to you. The coney, though it chews the cud, does not have a split hoof. It is unclean for you. The rabbit, though it chews the cud, does not have a split hoof. It is unclean for you. And the pigs, though it has splitted hoof, completely divided, does not chew the cud. It is unclean for you. You must not eat their meat or touch their carcasses. They are unclean for you. Of all the creatures living in the water of the sea and the stream, you may eat any that has finished fins and scale. But all creatures in the sea and stream that do not have fins and scale, whether among all the swimming things or among those living creatures in the water, you are to detect. And since you are to detect them, you must not eat their meat, and you must detect their carcasses. Anything living in the water that does not have fins and scale is to be detected to you. These are the birds you are to detect and not eat, because they are detected: the eagle, the vulture, the black vulture, the red kit, and kit, any kind of black kite, any kind of raven, the hound owl, the screwed owl, the gull, any kind of hawk, the little owl, the cormorant, the great owl, the white owl, the osprey, the storks, any kind of heron, the hoopay, and bats. All flying insects that walk on all four are to be detestable to you. There are, however, some winged creatures that walk on all four that you may eat, those that have joint legs and hopping for the ground. Of these you must eat any kind of locusts, crickets, and grasshopper, but all other winged creatures that have 4 legs you are to detest. You will make 24 yourself unclean by this. Whoever touches their carcasses will be unclean. Every animal that has a split hoof, not completely divided, or that does not chew the cud is unclean for you. Whoever touches the carcasses of any of these will be unclean. Of all the animals that walk on all four, those that walk on their paws are unclean for you. Whoever touches their carcasses will be unclean till evening. Anyone who picks up their carcasses must wash his clothes, and he will be unclean till evening. They are unclean for you. Of all the animals that move about on the ground, these are unclean for you: the weasel, the rat, any kind of great lizard, the gecko, the monitor lizard, the wall lizard, the skink, and the chameleon. Of all those that move along the ground, these are the clean for you. Whoever touches them when they are dead will be unclean till evening. When one of these dies and falls on something, an article, whatever its use, will be unclean, whether it is made of wool, cloth, hides, or sackcloth. Put it in water, it will be unclean till evening, and then it will be clean. If any one of them fall in a clay pot, everything in it will be unclean, and you must break the pot. Any food that could be eaten but have water on it from such a pot is unclean, and any liquid that could be drunk from it is unclean. Anything that one of its carcasses falls on becomes unclean. On an oven or cooking pot must be broken. If a carcass falls on the seed that are to be planted, they remain unclean. But if water has been put on the seed of a carcass fall on it, it is unclean. 39. If an animal that you are allowed to eat dies, anyone who touches the carcass will be unclean till morning. Anyone who eats some of the carcasses must wash his clothes, and he will be unclean till evening. Anyone who picks up the carcasses must wash his clothes, and he will be unclean till evening. Every creature that moves about on the ground is detestable. It is not to be eaten. You are not to eat any creature that moves about on the ground, whether it moves on its belly or walks on its four or on many feet. It is detestable. Do not defile yourself by any of these creatures. Do not make yourself unclean by means of being made unclean to them. I am the Lord your God. Consecrate yourself and be holy, because I am holy. Do not make yourself unclean by any creatures that move about on the ground. And the Lord your God, who brought you up out of Egypt to the land to be your God. Therefore, be holy, because I am holy. These are the regulations concerning animals, birds, living things that move in the water, and every creature that move about the ground. You must distinguish between the unclean and the clean, between living creatures that may be eaten and those that may not be eaten. Purification after childbirth. Chapter 12. The Lord said to Moses, say to the Israelites, a woman who becomes pregnant and gives birth to a son who is ceremoniously unclean for 7 days, just as she is unclean during her monthly period. On the 8th day, the boy is to be circumcised. Then the woman must wait 33 days to be purified from her bleeding. She must not touch anything sacred or go to the sanctuary until the days of the purifications are over. If she gives birth to a daughter or for 2 weeks, the woman will be unclean as during her period. Then she must wait 66 days to be purified from her bleeding. When the days of her purification for a son or daughter are over, she is to bring to the priest at the entrance of the tent of meeting a year-old lamb and for a burnt offering, and a young pigeon or a dove for a sin offering. He shall offer them before the Lord to make atonement for her, and then she will be ceremoniously clean for her flow of blood. These are the regulations for the woman who gives birth to a boy or a child or a girl. If she cannot afford a lamb, she is to bring 2 doves or 2 young pigeons, one for the burnt offering and the other for the sin offering. In this way, the priest will make atonement for her and she will be clean. Chapter 13. Regulations about infectious disease. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, when anyone has a swelling or a rash of a bright spot on his skin that may become an infectious skin disease, he must be brought to Aaron the priest or to one of his sons, who is a priest. The priest is to examine the sore on his skin, and if the hair in the sore has turned white, and the sore appear to be more than skin deep, it is an infectious disease. When the priest examines him, he shall pronounce him ceremoniously unclean. If the spot on his skin is white but does not appear to be more skin deep on the hair in it has not turned white, the priest is to put the infectious person in isolation for 7 days. On the 7th day, the priest is to examine, and if he sees that the sore is unclean and has not spread in the skin, he is to keep him in isolation another 7 days. On the 7th day, the priest is to examine him again, and if the sore has faded and has not spread in the skin, the priest shall pronounce him clean. It is only a rash. The man must wash his clothes and he will be clean. But if the rash does not spread in his skin, after he has shown himself to the priest to be pronounced clean, he must appear before the priest again. The priest is to examine him, and if the rash has spread to the skin, he shall pronounce him unclean. It is an infectious disease. When anyone has an infectious disease, he must be brought to the priest. The priest is to examine him, and if there is a white swelling in the skin that has turned the hair white, and if there is raw flesh in the swelling, it is a chronic skin disease, and the priest shall pronounce him unclean. He is not put up in isolation because he is already clean. Verse 12. If the disease break out over his skin, and so far as the priest can see, it covers all the skin of the infected person from the head to the foot, the priest is to examine, and if the disease has covered his whole body, he shall pronounce that person clean. Since it has all turned white, he is clean. But whenever raw flesh appears on him, he will be unclean. When the priest sees the raw flesh, he shall pronounce him unclean. The raw flesh is unclean. He has an infectious disease. Should the raw flesh change the whole and turn white, he must go to the priest. Then priest is to examine him, and if the sore have turned white, the priest shall pronounce the infectious person clean. Then he will be clean. When someone has a boil on his skin and it is healed, and in the place where the boil was a white swelling or reddish white spot appears, he must present himself to the priest. The priest is to examine it, and it is appear to be more than a skin deep and the hair deep. It is an infectious skin disease that has broken out where the boils was. But if when the priest examined there is no white hair than the skin deep and had faded, then the priest is to put him in isolation for 7 days. Regulations about mildew. 47. If any clothing is contaminated with mildew, any woolen or linen clothing, any woven or knitted material or linen of wool, or any leather or anything, and if the contamination is the clothing or leather or woven knitted material or any leather articles is greenish or reddish, it is a spreading mildew and must be shown to the priest. The priest is to examine the middle and isolate the affected articles for 7 days. On the 7th day, he is to examine it, and if the mildew has spread in the clothing, or the woven or knitted material, or leather, whether it is used, it is destructive mildew. The article is unclean. He must burn up the clothing or the woven knitted material. But if when the priest examined it, the mildew has not spread in the clothing or the woven or knitted material or the leathers, he shall order that the contaminated article be washed. Then he is to isolate for another 7 days. After the affected article has been washed, the priest is to examine, and when the dew has not changed its appearance, even though it has not spread, it's unclean. And I would urge you to read chapter 14, read chapter 15 and 16 and 17, and you read also 18 and 19. We shall continue from there, from chapter 20 next time. Hope you will have read it.